Have you ever felt that no matter what you say to a woman, it is like her interest is on a dimmer switch you do not control, while another man can walk into the same room, barely speak, and suddenly her eyes, her attention, her whole energy are pulled toward him? You know you are not less intelligent, not less kind, not less worthy, but somehow, her attraction is unpredictable, unstable, almost mysterious. And deep down, you have this uncomfortable thought: there has to be a way to influence that. There has to be a way to actually control how attracted she feels to me, without begging, chasing, or turning myself into someone I am not. If that thought has ever crossed your mind, stay here, because in this video, I am going to break down what many call dark psychology and attraction, and I am going to show you the one trick that changes everything about how women respond to you, their desire for you, and the way they see you as a man. First, let us be very clear about something. When I say control her attraction, I am not talking about controlling her as a person. You cannot and should not try to control another human being, and any attempt to invade someone's freedom or break their boundaries is not seduction. It is weakness disguised as power. What I am talking about is something much más profundo, influencing the emotional climate that she feels around you. Because attraction is not logic, it is not a checklist, it is not a negotiation. Attraction is an emotional response, and emotions follow invisible patterns. When you understand those patterns, when you understand how the mind reacts to certainty, uncertainty, scarcity, abundance, dominance, submission, tension, and release, you realize something that can be uncomfortable at first. You have been giving away control of attraction by the way you show up emotionally. The one trick that truly controls her attraction is this: you control your emotional frame so strongly that she ends up being pulled into your world instead of you chasing hers. That is the dark part. Most men are trying to move her, convince her, impress her, entertain her. The rare man, the man who feels like a psychological magnet, does the opposite. He is not pushing outward. He is holding a powerful inner space that pulls her inward. He has what in seduction, psychology, and even Stoic philosophy is called frame. Your frame is the set of beliefs, emotions, and expectations that you carry into every interaction. It is the invisible rules of the game that your mind is playing, and here is the key. In any interaction, one frame dominates. When your frame collapses under hers, you become the one who seeks approval, who reacts, who negotiates his value. When your frame stays solid while remaining calm and respectful, her nervous system starts to register you as the reference point. And when you become the reference point, attraction rises almost automatically. Think about the difference. A man without frame is constantly asking himself, does she like me? Did I say the right thing? Should I text again? Why is she taking so long to reply? Notice where his attention is. Outward, on her reactions, on her validation. His emotions are not anchored in himself. They are constantly being shaped by what she does or does not do. That is the default psychological pattern of most guys. A man with frame, on the other hand, is asking a very different set of questions. Do I genuinely like this woman? Does this dynamic feel healthy to me? Am I respecting my standards? Does this match the life I am building? His attention is not stuck in her mood. It is anchored in his own values, direction, and self-respect. He is present with her, but he is not owned by her responses. That inner shift is the trick. It sounds simple, but the whole structure of attraction between you and a woman changes when she feels that your emotional world does not collapse just because of her approval or rejection. Why does this work at such a deep level? Because emotionally, humans mirror what is in front of them. There is a concept in psychology called emotional contagion. We pick up and synchronize with the emotional states of the people around us. When you interact with a woman from a place of anxiety, fear of loss, and need for reassurance, she does not just see it, she feels it. Her body reads it as instability. Instability never equals safety. And when a woman does not feel safe on a psychological level, her attraction shuts down, or becomes superficial and inconsistent. On the other hand, when you show up with a calm, grounded presence, your breathing steady, your voice unhurried, your words honest and not desperate, her nervous system begins to relax. At a deep level, she feels that she can lean into your frame without losing herself. That combination of safety and mystery is exactly what intensifies attraction. Now, dark psychology comes in when you understand the unconscious triggers that decide whose frame dominates. One of the biggest is perceived value. Not in the superficial sense of money or status symbols, but in the psychological sense, how a person ranks you in terms of self-respect, emotional independence, and options. Women are extremely sensitive to whether your world is already full and rich before they enter it, or whether you are empty and waiting for someone to come and fill the void. The man whose life is full, whose time is valuable, whose attention is selective, automatically gets framed as higher value. This is not manipulation. It is how the human brain categorizes people. Scarcity of attention increases perceived value. When your attention is everywhere, seeking and begging, it loses power. When your attention is intentional, when you do not drop everything to chase every fluctuation in her interest, your attention becomes a reward. And humans are wired to want what feels like a reward. So the core trick is this. You take back control of your attention and emotions. You stop chasing every reaction she has. You stop reading and rereading every message looking for hidden meaning. Instead, you decide that your emotional state is yours. You become the man whose inner world is not for sale. That shift might sound abstract, so let me translate it into specific attitudes and behaviors. First, control her attraction by refusing to negotiate your self-respect. Whenever you interact with a woman, your subconscious is constantly calculating one thing. What do I have to sacrifice so that she does not lose interest? That is where most men lose the frame. They sacrifice opinions, boundaries, time, sleep, priorities, even dignity, just to avoid risking her disapproval. But here is the psychological twist. The more you sacrifice yourself to keep someone, the less that person respects you, and the less attraction they feel. In attraction, over-accommodation equals self-erasure. A woman might enjoy the validation for a while, but deep inside, she knows you are not standing firmly in who you are. That kills desire. The man who controls attraction is willing to walk away rather than betray himself, not in an arrogant or punishing way, but in a calm, grounded way. This is who I am. These are my standards. If this dynamic crosses that line, I am out. That quiet willingness to lose her for the sake of not losing yourself is one of the strongest dark psychological triggers of attraction, because it signals abundance. It signals that your world will keep moving whether she stays or not. Second, control her attraction by mastering emotional non-reactivity. In the world of seduction, many talk about tests. Whether you call them tests or not, the pattern is simple. A woman will often push against your frame to see whether it holds. That is not evil. That is psychology. People test reality to see what is solid and what is fragile. When she sees that a small delay in her reply makes you spiral, that a slightly cold comment makes you beg for reassurance, that one change of plans makes you angry, she registers. He is emotionally unstable. He is not in control of himself. You do not need a degree in psychology to know what happens then. Attraction drops. When she realizes she cannot easily shake you off center, when you can hear a joke, a challenge, a moment of distance, and you remain composed, curious, and unbroken, something very different happens. Her mind starts to perceive you as emotionally dominant, not in a harsh way, but in a centered way. That emotional dominance, when combined with respect and kindness, is intensely attractive. Emotional non-reactivity does not mean being cold, robotic, or indifferent. It means that you feel everything, but you do not let those feelings drive your behavior in an impulsive way. You can feel the rush of desire, the sting of jealousy, the discomfort of uncertainty, and still choose your response. That choice is what separates a man who is controlled by attraction from a man who controls attraction. When you act from reaction, you play her game. When you act from decision, you invite her into your game. Third, control her attraction by creating a sense of healthy unpredictability rooted in authenticity. The brain gets addicted to patterns of tension and release. If everything is always predictable, always available, always guaranteed, desire fades. On the other hand, if everything is chaos, always unstable, always dramatic, attraction becomes trauma, not connection. The sweet spot, the dark psychological edge is this. She can trust your character, but she cannot predict your every move. She knows you are honest, but she does not know what you will say next. She knows you are into her, but she does not feel like she owns you. You are generous with your attention, but not predictable with your schedule. You are affectionate, but not constantly begging to be needed. This kind of unpredictability does not come from playing childish games. It comes from living a real life that does not revolve around any one person. When your day is already full of purpose, training, projects, growth, and you enjoy her presence without making her your oxygen, she naturally experiences you as a man with depth. That depth creates mystery, and mystery fuels attraction. A powerful way to understand this is through the concept of center of gravity in relationships. Ask yourself right now, in your interactions with women, where is the center of gravity? Is it in her opinions, her feelings, her moods, or in your values, your mission, your standards? If the center is always in her, you are orbiting around her. You can feel it when you cancel your plans again and again just in case she might want to do something. You can feel it when you lose focus at work because you are obsessing over her last message. You can feel it when you stop training, stop progressing, stop building your life because your attention is trapped. That is the pattern of a man who has abandoned his own center of gravity. The trick is to reverse that. You become the center. Your life is the gravitational field. She can enter, enjoy, contribute, but she is not the axis. Instead of you spinning around her unpredictable orbit, she finds herself drawn into yours. How do you build that inner center in a practical way? Start with radical honesty with yourself. Where in your life are you acting needy, clingy, or desperate for approval? Where are you lying to yourself about a woman's behavior just because you are afraid of losing her? Where are you saying it is not a big deal, when deep down you feel disrespected or sidelined? You cannot build true frame on top of self-deception. Dark psychology here means you are willing to look at the darkest parts of your own patterns. Your fear of being alone, your fear of rejection, your fear of not being enough. Instead of running from those fears, you face them, you accept them, and then you decide, even with these fears, I am going to show up as a man who respects himself. Once you have that internal decision, you bring it into your communication. You stop over-explaining yourself. You speak in short, clear sentences. You say what you mean, and you mean what you say. You do not rush to fill every silence. Silence is one of the most underrated tools of frame control. When you are comfortable with silence, you demonstrate that you do not need constant validation. You let her words land. You let her emotions breathe. And in that space, she feels your presence more strongly. Many men talk themselves out of attraction because they cannot be quiet. They overshare, they overcompliment, they oversell themselves. The man who controls attraction is deliberate. He shares parts of himself, but very intentionally. He knows that revealing everything too quickly kills the mystery that attraction feeds on. Another layer of dark psychology here is the power of contrast. Human beings feel things more intensely when there is contrast. Sweetness feels sweeter after bitterness. Warmth feels warmer after cold. Presence feels more precious after absence. If you are always available, always present, always responsive, there is no contrast. You blend into the background of her life. To create contrast, you need boundaries. You need moments where you are fully present with her, and moments where you are fully present with your own life, and she does not have access to you. Not because you are punishing her, not because you are playing childish games, but because you have a life that demands your focus. When you are with her, be fully there. Eye contact, attentiveness, playful energy, grounded touch when appropriate. When you are away, be fully away. No half-present messaging while your mind is elsewhere. This sends a clear signal to her subconscious. This man's time is real. His attention is real. En me lo tienes cerca, debe valorarlo, porque no está garantizado cada segundo. Here is a subtle but powerful element: how you handle rejection and indifference. Most men see rejection as a verdict on their worth. When a woman pulls away, they collapse internally. They chase, they plead, they send long messages trying to convince her. From a psychological perspective, this is a disaster for attraction. It tells her you put your sense of value in her hands. The man who controls attraction understands something different. Rejection is information, not identity. When she loses interest, when she pulls back, when she chooses another path, he does not see it as proof that he is not enough. He sees it as proof that this particular dynamic is not aligned, and he moves on. Not in a cold, resentful way, but in a calm, self-respecting way. This attitude is extremely attractive because it reveals a man who is rooted in abundance. Women sense that. They can feel when you are approaching them from emptiness or from fullness. Fullness is magnetic. You might be thinking, all of this sounds like internal work, not a trick. That is exactly the point. The dark secret is that the real trick is not external at all. It is not a line, not a technique, not a text template. Those things can help at a surface level, but they never create deep, lasting attraction. The one trick that changes everything is shifting from external control to internal control. Most guys are addicted to trying to control her actions. The rare man becomes addicted to controlling his own mind, his own reactions, his own standards. When you do that, you become unpredictable in the best way. Not because you are playing a role, but because you are no longer a slave to her validation. You are guided by your purpose. Let us connect this with something every seduction author and every serious psychologist agrees on. Humans are drawn to those who are already moving. Purpose is sexy. Direction is sexy. A man wandering through life, waiting for a woman to give him a sense of meaning, practically repels attraction. A man who is already on a path, building, growing, fighting for something bigger than himself, naturally creates a gravitational pull. In practical terms, this means that if your life is empty outside of women, you will always be at a disadvantage in attraction. Women are not a replacement for your mission, they are a complement to it. So the real trick, is to build a life that is so aligned with your deepest values that any woman who enters it feels that she is stepping into a story already in motion. When she feels that, she has two options: step up and match your level, or step away. Either way, you maintain your frame. Dark psychology also tells us that humans are attracted to those who seem slightly out of reach, not unavailable, not cold, but not completely conquered. When a woman feels like she has you completely, instantly, with no effort whatsoever, desire fades. It is not about playing hard to get, it is about being hard to own. You can be open, warm, and emotionally available, while still having a strong sense of self that cannot be bought with compliments or intimacy. This is where standards come in. A man without standards will accept any behavior, any dynamic, just to keep a woman around. A man with standards is willing to say, "I like you, I desire you, but I will not accept this type of treatment, this level of effort, this lack of reciprocity." That combination of desire plus standards is potent. It communicates, "I choose you, but I do not need you." And that is one of the deepest triggers of attraction in the female psyche. One more dimension of this one trick is how you respond to her emotional waves. Women are often more emotionally expressive and cyclic than men. Their attraction can rise and fall with mood, hormones, stress, and many other factors. A man without frame takes every fluctuation personally. When she is warm, he feels amazing. When she is distant, he feels destroyed. His emotional state is a roller coaster tied to hers. A man with frame recognizes the waves and stays grounded. He does not punish her for being emotional, nor does he become her emotional sponge. He listens, he supports, when it is healthy to do so, but he does not lose himself inside her storms. Imagine a lighthouse in the middle of a rough sea. The waves crash, the wind howls, but the lighthouse stands. That is your role, not to fight the waves or control them, but to be the stable point that does not disappear when things get intense. This is incredibly attractive because it taps into a deep, primal sense of safety. Attraction grows where there is tension plus safety. You bring the safety through your frame. The tension comes naturally through polarity and differences. Now let us talk about communication style. Men who control attraction understand that how they say something is often more important than what they say. They speak slowly, clearly, with grounded tonality. They do not rush to fill every silence with nervous words. They allow eye contact. They hold their body in a relaxed, open way, instead of shrinking, fidgeting, or closing off. All of these are signals of internal control. From a psychological standpoint, people are constantly scanning others for indicators of status and self-trust. When your voice trembles, your words rush, your body collapses. Her subconscious reads, "He does not fully trust himself." When your words are deliberate, your posture is solid, your movements are economical. She reads, "He is at home in his own skin." That inner comfort is deeply attractive. A crucial part of this dark psychological edge is your relationship with desire itself. Most men either suppress their desire out of shame or let it leak out in needy, compulsive ways. The man who controls attraction does something different. He owns his desire without apology, but he does not let it control him. He can feel intense attraction and still choose his behavior. He does not hide his interest behind fake indifference, but he also does not pour it all out at once like a flood that drowns the connection. He lets desire be felt but held. That subtle tension is electric. Women feel it. They feel that you are a man who wants them, but a man who will not lose himself just because he is attracted. That is respectful, and it is powerful. At this point, you might notice a pattern. Every element of this trick points back to one central reality. You are the one who must be in control of you. That is the twist that most people miss when they hear dark psychology. They imagine tricks to hack her brain, phrases that bypass her will. That is childish. The true game is this: the more control you have over your emotions, your focus, your boundaries, your time, your purpose, the less you need to control anyone else. And paradoxically, the less you try to control her, the more her attraction is controlled by your presence. Because women are not attracted to control, they are attracted to power. Real power. Quiet power. The kind that does not need to shout, does not need to prove, does not need to beg. So if you want to apply this in your life, do not start by looking for tricks to change her. Start by becoming radically aware of where you leak power. Where do you act from fear, instead of from choice? Where do you chase instead of invite? Where do you collapse your standards for a bit of attention? Where do you abandon your mission to obsess over someone else's mood? Each time you find one of those spots, and you correct it, you strengthen your frame. And every time you strengthen your frame, you are turning up the dial on that invisible force that makes women feel something different when they are around you. From today forward, make a decision. You will stop trying to control women, and you will master the ability to control the emotional experience they have around you. That means you take ownership of your energy before you step into any interaction. You make sure you are grounded, not desperate, present, not scattered, clear, not confused. You will walk into rooms as a man who knows who he is, what he stands for, and where he is going. You will stop negotiating your worth and start living as if your presence is already valuable, because it is. The world does not need more men trying to manipulate women. The world needs more men with such a strong inner frame that women feel safe to be feminine, emotional, and fully themselves in their presence. The one trick to control her attraction is this: control the only thing you were ever meant to control, which is you. When you do that deeply, consistently, and unapologetically, you become the man whose absence is felt, whose presence is craved, and whose attention is a privilege, not a consolation prize. That is the dark psychology advantage. Not that you learn to push buttons in her mind, but that you become the man her mind, her body, and her heart are wired to respond to. If this message is hitting something inside you right now, do not just listen and forget. Make the decision to embody it. Start with one area of your life where you have been giving away your frame, and take it back. As you do, you will notice the shift. Conversations feel different. Her eyes stay on you longer. Her energy leans in more naturally. That is not magic. That is psychology. And it is yours to master.